Hey, beautiful.
We still on for dinner?
Pepper, 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock, right?
How about 8:30 at the vegan place?
Actually, I'm in the mood for barbecue.
Sounds good.
Take a call and stay in the game. With the Plantronics rig, headset, and mixer, life comes to games like never before.
Don't need much more than this. The next start, falling here as well. Decimate takes a lot of damage. He's dead as Evan picks that one up. And immunity, I think they've done it. The Nexus ban now sooner. Gonna get taken out here as well. Swiper taking it up. The Nexus taking damage and immunity. They have done it. They will go to game some. Good game, well played.
This is just the beginning of Riot's esports presence in Australia, right? We're here to stay. Stick around.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to week 2 of the Riot Autumn Regionals here. We're still in the round of 8. My name is Place, and I'm joined here with Atlas. Let's take a quick overview of what this tournament is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. In case you are hiding underneath a rock, of course, this Riot round of 8 is going to be 2 groups, Group A and Group B, and the top 2 from both of these teams will be going on to Supernova for our round of 4, where they're going to be battling out a spot to move on. Of course, we're now into week 2. This is, of course, day 1, and we do have our first relegation game.
Yeah, a team today will be getting knocked out of the tournament, and the winner will be moving on for a chance to keep fighting for that spot into Supernova. So let's take a quick overview of how Group A has been going in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, both of these teams losing in the first week of our competition. But they're going to be fighting to keep their spot in the round of 8. The winner
Yeah.
will be facing off, of course, against the winner of Little Wraith and Team Immunity being played out on Thursday. So that's going to be incredibly exciting to find out.
Yeah, absolutely. And today we have Optic Snipers versus Avant-Garde Ascension, as you said. And Optic Snipers, the real underdogs in this matchup for sure.
Absolutely.
They're coming in as seed number 8. They qualified through the Challenger qualifiers, obviously, here, but Avant Ascension are the interesting ones to me. They qualified through Cybergamer, which was one of the hardest events to qualify through, and, they've definitely been a standout so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Avant-Garde Ascension, of course, previously Mindfreak, when they did actually qualify, Avant-Garde did take them over.
Yeah.
And so now we've got Minky Whale in the top lane as well, who's he didn't actually play with them when they were qualifying, but now that he's finally in there, as you can see, he's been really trying to make things work out for his team, although his stats don't really quite tell the story.
Yeah, and Minky Whales don't really either. I feel they're very consistent players together. You can see all just playing those tanky meta top lane champs as well, and it's really indicative of their play styles. Minky Whale, the jack of all trades as well in that top lane, and 2, 2, and 3, consistency there is the key for him. And I guess it's good to see both of these top laners with that style of play.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about Coolmog as well, I mean, he's been playing that Trundle and the Shyvana and the Renekton, and the Dr. Mundo, of course, as well, which he played when he was qualifying into this game. Plays a lot of just general meta champions, of course. So it's really interesting to see. He's like the rock of their team. Really sort of never really falls behind, but doesn't always dominate his lane either.
Absolutely. So let's go into game 1 here. First game of this series as well. And Optic Snipers. I'm interested to see what they pick here. They've picked the Trundle in that top lane for Coolmog against Immunity, which was such a hard game for him to open up the regionals. But they're going to ban, or it's going to be Avant-Garde Ascension rather, banning out Vi to begin with.
Yeah, taking away that really, really strong jungler, which is generally what you generally see, isn't it? So
Yeah.
you're going to take away those really tough ones. Elise going out as well, so we might see potentially Elise in ban. Then we've got the trifecta of really strong junglers being taken away, which makes a lot of sense. I'm looking for the Ziggs ban here, though, please.
Yeah, well, it's going to be an Orianna ban there against 4Geek. 4Geek known for his those mid lane champs that just dominate. So I'd expect maybe a Gragas ban as well.
The farm heavy mid lane champions like Gragas and Ziggs on top of that, and we'll see whether they get taken away. It is going to give an opportunity for a lot of these really strong champions to come through, such as Kassadin or anything like that, to see whether, perhaps they'll find their way into this match, which could be, massive snowball potential for one of these teams.
Yeah, and talking about snowball is important here because I feel that Vi definitely banned against Jakey as a target because he had some really promising results with that against Avant Redemption in their qualifying match where he really pulled some early leads there. So taking that away is important. LeBlanc as well, taking that away from Choo Choo's pretty much essential in this matchup.
Yeah, essential. Yeah,
Almost.
Absolutely. Yeah, I went for it, but it didn't quite come through. I'm sure I'll try and get back on the boat, everyone. Don't even worry about it. So 2 junglers and 2 mid laners being taken away here. Of course, the more assassin mid laner being taken away from Choo Choo's, who's known for his assassins or poke champions. Of course, doesn't like to sit back, playing something like an Orianna that wants to be for the team fights. He likes to either poke people down with those spears from Nidalee or something like that, or really just kill people flat out 1v1 like LeBlanc or Zed or anything like that.
Yeah. And I mean, Choo Choo's, you're right. It's the extremes, the huge assassins or the huge poke champs here. So not really in between. Lulu ban's kind of interesting there against either 4Geek or Ice Cold Killer. We've seen only Lulu played in the support role so far in the regionals, which is a little bit interesting.
It's really interesting. And there was a lot of Lulu being played in the qualification matches leading up to this round of 8, of course. But we just haven't been seeing her in that mid lane where she's been so popular. And Ziggs being taken away first off. Yeah. And this is going to be really, really interesting to see because Choo Choo's, as we were talking about before, likes to play his poke champs and stuff like that. And Ziggs, so pokey. Always really, really good at that. But we are going to have a quick restart here. I think someone forgot to pick the right champion. Maybe Ziggs wasn't what they really wanted.
Maybe.
We're not entirely sure.
Well,
but we'll be
it
getting
would
back
make
into
sense.
This.
I mean, Ziggs is definitely in Choo Choo's most played champions here. And we saw it a lot through when they qualified back in CG for their qualification there. And it's definitely indicative of that extreme, right to that far end for the poke. Either
Absolutely.
that Nidalee, either that Ziggs, going for that long-range damage there. And I'd like to see him pick up this Ziggs and play that.
Yeah, and his use of those really long-range abilities, Mega Inferno Bomb being a massive example of that. You can use that across half of the map. And what I really, really like about the pickup is the fact that they're taking it away from 4Geek. And as we saw in the qualification match from Optic Snipers, 4Geek, that triple kill at the end of Game 2 really solidified their way to get into this round of 8 first off. So picking that away from 4Geek is massive on the side of Avant-Garde Ascension. So it's a good decision. We'll see whether they decide to go for it again when we go back into the game. I'm not entirely sure what went wrong, So that pick may not have been exactly what we were looking for. So just have to keep an open mind.
Alrighty, so hopefully we getting back into this one soon. And while we're talking about Choo Choos as well there, I really feel Choo Choos and 4Geek have a lot in common. I mean, this is both their first major competitive experience, both their first teams that they've been on. And
Absolutely.
for someone like Choo Choos, he was just picked up at a solo queue like 4Geek just because they were in that Challenger League, just because they had proven to be so strong. And I think it's really impressive, actually, that these two guys from their teams have come so far in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And Shots, of course, is the manager for Avant-Garde Ascension, and he's a very skilled player himself. Actually helped qualify the team by playing top lane for them, played a lot of Mundo, and he knows the solo queue mentality. He knows who are the good players at the very top of Oceanic Challenger. So he can get first-hand information on who's really dominating in the scene at the moment. So it's really good to see him really scouting for his team. And both of these teams are like that as well, because Fantasy on the side of Optic Snipers, who's their manager, actually scouted out their whole team just to try and fit together a lot of really strong solo queue players. So it's interesting to note that the fact that we've got so many similarities between these two teams.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, Fantasy, Optic Snipers manager, as you said, trying to pull solo queue players together to show that they can have that impact on the pro scene. Hasn't quite gone the way he planned yet, but they were up against Immunity in their first match there. So I guess that's a huge hurdle that you have to expect to be a tough one earlier up. So I guess this is the first game where Optic Snipers are going to be able to prove that they can perhaps take games here and keep their story rolling, I guess, in the regionals.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And we all know that the Optic Snipers are just fantastic at taking out Avant-Garde teams.
Yes, the Avant-Garde Slayers.
They are the snipers of Avant-Garde.
Yeah.
So we'll see whether, I mean, the Redemption didn't quite come. Is the Ascension going to be coming out? And I do apologize if anyone saw my tweet from earlier, and I really would like to take this time to say
above
sorry.
the Optic Snipers is what we're looking for.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. But the Optic Snipers are going to be trying to get the high ground, aren't they?
Yeah.
Just so they can snipe everyone
think
off.
so.
There's enough puns coming out from us right now, Place. I think we can probably calm down.
And Optic Snipers as well as Avant both having roster swaps compared to last week in the regionals.
That's true.
We've got Carbon back on the lineup of Avant Ascension, and that's huge because they had Juve before, and he was a sub, so doesn't quite have the same synergy as you would expect Carbon to have here. And I feel
absolutely.
This will be a big switch up for Avant Ascension.
That's massive. And the fact that Optic Snipers also have Ness, who's not actually on the team anymore, who was playing AD carry. He's going to be replaced by Asian, whose name was originally going to be Aaron, but he just decided to go with Asian because he's also Asian. So I guess that was his story. It was about one line. We asked, so how did you get your name? Oh, I'm Asian. Wanted to get Aaron, but then went with Asian. It was very, very exciting.
It was an exciting story.
Yeah, absolutely. But
he really hyped that one.
Yeah, I did. I really made sure. I think we're going to leave the hype to you,
Alrighty.
honestly, from this point on. And I think it's probably good that we're taking these roles.
But it's interesting here because we're going to have to go to a break, though, because the lobby's having a bit of an issue. So we'll be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere. Game 1 between Optic Snipers and Avant Ascension coming right up. Alrighty, so we're back here, and we're going to have to fill a little bit of time, Atlas, because these guys still just re-preparing that lobby there. A couple of issues between these guys, but off the start, I mean, I want to talk about Jakey, the jungler here for Optic Snipers. Really interesting guy right off the bat.
Yeah, absolutely. Jakey's he's the verbal portion, and of course we did tell that story just last week about the fact that his mum had to come into the room and see whether he was actually dying or something because he was yelling so much and getting so into the game, and he really is sort of the driving force as far as the morale for Optic Snipers is concerned.
Yeah, and he's a guy that kind of rides a roller coaster of emotion because when we saw them in their first couple of first games, I guess, against Immunity, he had some rough ones. He had a rough early start on Pantheon and then some great games with the Wukong, but didn't quite work out the way he wanted. And when we look back to how he qualified in the Challenger qualifiers, he played champions like Xin Zhao. Really interesting picks as well there.
Yeah. And he played that Xin Zhao in both of the games that they won as well. He was just smashing people with that champion. They took out a Cassidon team as well. I think that was SYF that they took down in the semis in order to get into their qualifying match against Avant-Garde Redemption. And he was just massacring people with that champion. Really, really cool. And we haven't seen very much Xin Zhao recently, so I'd really like to see him possibly bring that one out because he was so strong.
Maybe. We'll see if they pick it out. It does synergize quite nicely, I feel, with Coolmog, because Coolmog in that top lane, such a staple for his team, always consistent, and you kind of know that you can rely on him because he won't fall behind. It means you can be a bit more risky in that jungle pick because you know you're going to have that tanky front line coming down from the top lane.
Yeah, and Coolmog's also playing those really beefy champions as well, so you never really need that extra tank. The double tank does tend to work in a lot of these team comps, but having your jungler that can build that Lizard Elder item and really like the Brutalizer potentially as well, and having the Xin Zhao coming out of the jungle with tons and tons of damage and being able to really influence the team. You can use that crescent sweep in order to really lock a target down and they can take them out. So that could be an interesting decision to make. We'll just see what they decide to go with this matchup or whether he's got some surprises for us because his Vi is also fantastic, even though it's banned out for this first game.
Yeah, and also, I mean, let's look at Optic Sniper's bot lane here as well here. And we talked about how Asians are sub coming in for their starter player, Ness, and we look at Asian here, and he has some history with Ice Cold Killer. They were on a team a long time ago. We're talking maybe a year here, and the team didn't really work out for him. They didn't have the results. Both of the players were quite new back then as well, and so they didn't continue into the scene very far with that. But they do have a little bit of competitive history together, so it'll be interesting to see if there are any underlying qualities when we see these guys play in this bottom lane.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. And the really, really useful thing about that is that they understand each other's playstyles. They've been playing together for a very long time, and it means that if you bring a sub in, often what happens in that bottom lane is that you lose that synergy. Yeah. You lose that sort of bot lane just knowing what your lane partner is going to be doing. So it's really, really handy to have that extra history for those two. So hopefully we're going to be seeing definitely still a more close-knit bottom lane sort of duo versus each other,
Yeah, and another fun fact about Asian here as well, as I'm kind of popping them off, he played 180 out of 200 ranked games on Lucian in Pre-Season 3, right after he was released, sorry. And that's a really impressive stat there, and dedication as well to a champion, because that's probably a 10% ban rate that's come from his just Lucian being banned in solo queue, which usually happens.
This was before Lucian was a really popular pick as well. Exactly. This was back at the beginning where everyone was a little bit hesitant to pick up the Lucian. They were like, oh, that culling does no damage. Oh, this guy's a little bit
Look how much
dodgy.
That changed as well.
It's changed a lot, Place, and that champion pick is now a staple among the AD carries that are being picked up. So, I mean, it'd be interesting to see whether Avant-Garde have got a plan and they're going to try and pick this one away from Optic Snipers or whether Asian's going to be able to pick that one up because he obviously knows exactly how that champion works.
Absolutely, and you look over to the side of Avant-Garde Ascension here, and you've got Cardrid as well as Erect Gymnast in that bottom lane.
Oh, yeah.
These guys have been around forever here. What are we expecting for Erect Gymnast, especially in that support role?
I'm looking for him to pick up either that Morgana or the Leona. He was playing that Morgana so well, though, in the few games that they were playing. I mean, unfortunately, they didn't actually pick up the win in that matchup, but he was playing that to perfection. Actually got a few solo kills after some dragon damage as well on that champion and really landing those Dark Bindings when he needed to.
Alrighty, so lobby's still taking a long time here, and let's, just so we don't bore you guys with these stories about the players, and maybe hype them before they even get into the match, let's go to another short break here, and we'll be back with game number 1 soon. Hopefully these players can get it sorted.
Yeah, absolutely.
beautiful.
We still on for dinner?
Pepper, 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock, right?
How about 8:30 at the vegan place?
Actually, I'm in the mood for barbecue.
Sounds good.
Take a call and stay in the game with the Plantronics rig, headset, and mixer. Life comes to games like never before.
So unfortunately, guys, Optic Snipers haven't been able to field a whole team right here. I can see the sad face on your face, Atlas. I was so hyped for this match as well.
I'm so excited too,
and
man.
this is obviously a big deal here as well, because Optic Snipers, they were the new guys on the block. They were the last team to qualify, and despite that, this was an elimination match as well. So they're going to get knocked out of the round of 8 here, and it's unfortunate that it happened because they were unable to field a full roster for tonight's match.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and it's really, really sad because the storylines for all these players were just so incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
I really hope that they find their way back in for our winter qualifier when that comes around, and I'm really looking forward to seeing these teams and how they've progressed, possibly if they manage to stay together and really put in the work, because I saw so much potential in this team, and it's going to be really sad to see them leave the round of 8.
Yeah, and I don't think this will be the last we see them either. They'll be practicing for winter, which will be coming up later in the year. And let's talk about Avant Ascension here as well, because they'll be moving on to play the loser of Immunity versus Little Wraith. That'll be happening later on in the week. And so it's definitely going to be an interesting one to look out for. Avant Ascension had a rough time so far in the regionals, losing their first matchup, but they're probably going to be looking strong with Carbon back on their roster.
Yeah, having Carbon back in there really gives them that solid lineup that they really had, and they're going to be looking to try and ascend to our top 2 spot.
I don't think this is the moment for puns, Atlas.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's a little bit too sad.
It's a bit
isn't
sad
it?
right now.
It's just not really what we
having a forfeit here. But, of course, I guess, unfortunately, that wraps us up for the broadcast. It was a short one, not quite sweet either. But on behalf of myself, Atlas, everyone here at the broadcast crew, thanks for tuning in anyway. And join us tomorrow night at 6 p.m. for our coverage of the round of 8.